Let me ask you a question. Have you ever sat down to revise and absolutely known, exactly what you needed to do, and then just didn't do it? You had the notes, you had the time, you had the intention, but then somehow 45 minutes passed and you'd organized your desk, made a snack, you checked your phone, rearranged your revision schedule, and the actual revision just didn't happen. I want you to know something really important about that moment. You are not lazy. Say that again to yourself. I am not lazy. What you experienced in that moment has a name. It has a neuroscientific explanation, and this is the part that changes everything. It has a 5-second solution, and I'm going to teach you that solution today. But first, I need you to understand what's actually going on in your brain when procrastination hits. Because once you understand it, you can't understand it. And once you understand it, the 5-second rule becomes pretty obvious to us. It becomes the only logical response. So what's actually happening in your brain when you sit down to revise and suddenly you can't make yourself start? You see, what's going on is your brain is programmed over millions and millions and millions and millions of years to keep you alive. That's its primary function, not to get you a grade 7 in English literature, to keep you alive and safe. You see, over time, your brain has developed a very efficient system for flagging up potential threats and getting you away from there as quickly as you can. So when your brain is stressed, it decides sometimes to do nothing, sometimes to think about getting away. So that system is the stress response. And here's the thing that nobody tells you. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and an English literature exam. Both produce the same physiological response. Cortisol, the stress hormone, floods your system. Your heart rate increases. Your muscles prepare to run or to fight. And the part of your brain that stays calm, analytical thinking, the prefrontal cortex, it goes partially offline because you don't need to write a brilliant essay about Macbeth when there's a tiger chasing you. You simply need to move. So when you sit down, your brain senses the threat of the exam, the deadline, the pressure, the fear of failure. It does exactly what it was designed to do. It tries to get you away from that threat. Scrolling your phone is away from the threat. Tidying your desk, away from your threat. Making a snack, you guessed it, away from the threat. Deciding to start tomorrow, completely, beautifully, temporarily away from the threat. You see, procrastination is not a character flaw. Procrastination is your stress response doing the job in completely the wrong context. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The 5-4-3-2-1 rule was designed in 2011. It was designed by a woman called Mel Robbins, who was lying in a bed, unable to get up, watching her life fall apart. She'd lost her job, lost her house. Marriage was on the rocks. And then every morning, her alarm went off and she knew exactly what she needed to do, but she couldn't move. And then one night, she was watching a rocket launch on television and she watched the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the rocket whoosh, launched. And then the thought came to her, what if she did that next time she needed to get out of bed? You see, she was paralyzed. And then the next morning, the alarm went off. And instead of lying there trying to negotiate with herself, she just counted backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then she moved. And that's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule. But I need you to understand why it works. Because it's not magic, it's not motivation, it's not willpower, it's neuroscience. When you count backwards from 5, you do two things at the same time. A, you interrupt the pattern of pause, of hesitation. Your brain can't run its avoidance loop and count backwards at the same time because they use the same cognitive resource. And you activate the prefrontal cortex, this decision part of your brain that gives intentional, goal-directed behavior. The backwards count, it's not a trick. It's a neurological interrupt. You're physically changing the activity in your brain in the 5 seconds it takes to count. And then, and this is the critical part, you move before a feeling changes, before motivation arrives, before you feel ready. Because here's the truth about motivation that nobody tells you until it's too late. Motivation doesn't come before action. It comes after it. You will never feel like starting. You will never wake up and think, oh, yes, today I feel deeply enthusiastic about retrieving quotes from an inspected calls. That feeling does not exist. What exists is the moment after you start, when you're actually in it, when the work is happening, when the prefrontal cortex is ready, engaged, and the stress response has been quietened down. And that moment feels completely fine. Often good, sometimes genuinely satisfying, but you cannot get to that moment by waiting for it. You can only get there by counting. So how do you use it? Now, dancers use it slightly differently, but they always come back to the same thing. So I don't know if you were a dancer in your past, but dancers do this. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. And then they start on the 1. So if you're a non-dancer, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then start your revision. So the moment you feel the urge to delay, the moment your hand moves towards your phone or your notes, the moment your brain starts negotiating about, well, you could just start in 10 minutes, that's your cue. Not a cue to give in, a cue to count, a cue to count out loud, if you can, quietly if you need to, but count. You're interrupting the avoidance pattern. You're activating the prefrontal cortex. You're about to do the thing your future self will thank you for. Move. Open the notes. Pick up the pen. Write the first word on the blank page. That's it. That's the whole launch. You don't have to revise for 2 hours. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to want to do it. You just have to get to 1. So here's exactly how to use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for revision. The moment you feel the urge to delay, the moment your hand moves towards your phone instead of your notes, the moment your brain starts negotiating about whether you could start in 10 minutes, that's your cue. Not a cue to give in, a cue to count. Count out loud if you can, quietly if you need to, but count. You're interrupting the avoidance pattern. You're activating the prefrontal cortex. You're about to do the thing that your future self will thank you for. Then move, open your notes, pick up the pen, write the first word on the blank page. That is it. That's the whole launch. You don't have to revise for 2 hours. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to want to do it. You just have to get to 1. Because here's what I know about you. And I know this without having to meet you. You are not someone who doesn't care about your future. You care. And that's why procrastination feels so bad. You wouldn't feel guilty about not revising if you didn't care. The guilt is evidence of the care. So stop waiting for the feeling to change. The feeling doesn't go first. The action goes first. Count backwards, then move. The rest follows. The one thing to remember, every time you use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, you're doing something bigger than starting a revision session. You're training yourself to be someone who acts in the direction of your goals, even when they don't feel like it. That skill, that specific, learnable, practicable skill, is the most useful thing you will take out of this entire exam season. Not the quotes, not the techniques. This. The ability to count to 1 and then move.